Lenin Takes Control. Nikolai Lenin, Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, 1870–1924, was a Russian revolutionary and student of Marx, who was out for revenge, after his older brother, Alexander, was hung in 1887, along with 4 comrades, for conspiring to assassinate Czar Alexander II, the grandfather of Nicholas II. During his teenage years, he admired Mikhail Bakunin, 1814–1876, a follower of Weishaupt's principles, and a Satanist, who was the driving force behind the initial effort to organize communism. In 1887, Lenin entered Kazan University, and in 1889, he became a Mason, and soon began advocating the philosophies of Marx. He said, "We must combat religion. This is the ABCs of all materialism and consequently of Marxism." In 1891, he passed his law exam. In the early 1900s, he said that socialism could only be achieved by mobilizing workers and peasants through revolution, since trade unions were not able to bring about any change. In 1903, in London, he initiated a split in the Russian Social Democratic Workers' Party, which was completed in 1912, and became known as the All-Russian Communist Party in 1918. His left-wing faction became known as the Bolsheviks, or Bolshinstvo, which meant majority, the Mensheviks, or Menshinstvo, meant minority and Quat. The movement was slow to catch on, and by 1907, he only had 17 members, but he would soon have over 40,000. He received financial support from the Fabians, including a $15,000 contribution from Joseph Fels, an American soap manufacturer and a Fabian. George Bernard Shaw, one of the Fabians' founders, called Lenin the greatest Fabian of them all, and in a speech he made in Moscow in 1931, said, "It is a real comfort to me, an old man, to be able to step into my grave with the knowledge that the civilization of the world will be saved. It is here in Russia that I have actually been convinced that the new communist system is capable of leading mankind out of its present crisis, and saving it from complete anarchy and ruin." Lenin was an advocate of the populist doctrine, which had been developed by author Alexander Herzen during the 1860s. He felt that the peasant communes could be the socialist society of the future, and called for Russian socialism to be based on the ancient peasant tradition. The peasant revolt later developed into all-out revolution. In 1881, they succeeded in assassinating Tsar Alexander II, and continued to function as a conspiratorial organization. Many populists began advocating Marxist doctrine, and in 1883, led by Georgy Plekhanov, established the Marxist Liberation of Labor Group. Lenin wanted to use the populists to overthrow the government and introduce socialism. He added 2 Marxist elements to the populist theory: the notion of a class struggle, and the need for Russia to pass through a stage of capitalism. He led the people to believe that the purpose of his movement was to help the working class. In America during the 1800s, an alliance of various farming groups produced the Populist Party in 1892, which came to be known as the National People's Party. With their slogan, "The People Against the Tycoons," they fought for an increase in currency circulation, free silver, labor reform, a graduated income tax, government ownership of the railroads, and the direct election of U.S. senators. By 1896, they were almost fully integrated into the Democratic Party, while their principles were later embraced by the Progressive Party. The Progressive Party was a coalition of socialists, labor leaders and farmers, organized by Republican Senator Robert M. La Follette of Wisconsin in 1911 to oppose the conservatism of the Republican Party, and to fight for an aggressive program of social legislation. They later reunited with the Republican Party until 1924, when a coalition of liberals, farmers, Republican progressives, socialists, and left-wing labor leaders reorganized the Progressive Party, as La Follette promised to sweep conservatism out of the federal government. He wanted to end control of government and industry by private monopoly, to have public control of natural resources, public ownership of railroads, and a reduction in taxes. When he died in 1925, the party broke up, but was revived in 1948 by Communist Party leaders and left-wing labor leaders. Their platform included civil rights legislation, and called for negotiations with the Russians. The party's credibility was damaged when it was revealed that their leadership was communist-dominated. The Progressive Party was able to wield enough influence to help pass the Federal Reserve Act, the federal income tax, and the 17th Constitutional Amendment, which provided for the direct election of U.S. senators, rather than being appointed by the state legislators. They also provided support for the effort which eventually gave women the right to vote. Many of their goals were achieved during the administration of President Franklin D. Roosevelt.